This real estate process is something that you need. You need to know. Hey everyone, my name is Carson, and in today's video, I'm going to be addressing things that buyers need to know. Now, these are questions I have come across quite often, actually. And for me, it is relatively concerning as a real estate professional. The people coming to me with these questions are people who already have a real estate agent. And for me, that is just too concerning. So in this video, I'm going to be addressing all of those questions. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's set the scene. You have found the perfect house, the house that you are wanting to put an offer on. So we start with the purchase agreement. Now, the purchase agreement is something that your realtor will go through with you, but we're going to go through a rough version of it just so you guys can get a rough outlook of what it looks like. Now, starting off in the purchase agreement, the realtor is going to need to know a little bit of information, and is information relating to your mortgage. If you are getting a mortgage, I know people are out there who are going to be offering cash, but in this instance, we're going to be using a mortgage. Using a mortgage, all the realtor is really going to need to know is how long is it? Is it a 15-year, 30-year, even longer? How much you're going to put down? So are you willing to put 20% down or more? And they're also going to be putting in a mortgage rate. Now, the realtor should know what the mortgage rates are at the particular time that you're signing the document. Sometimes they're 6, sometimes they're lower, sometimes they're 7. Now, another thing that we're going to be talking about is the price, what you're going to offer the seller for their home. Let's say it's a $350,000 home, and you and your significant other, or just you, are debating on what we should offer. And you're so confused, you turn to your real estate agent for advice, and they can't tell you what to offer. Real estate professionals cannot tell you what to write for the offer. They can give you suggestions. We can give you market insights on, hey, these are what the most recent homes have sold in that neighborhood. But all in all, it is down to you as the buyer to say, I want to offer this much money for the house. Now, I'm just going to throw in a number. Let's say you offered $345 and it gets accepted. Yes, hooray, it is huge. But we're not done there. So you put in your offer of $345, and you also, when you walked through the home, you were like, hey, I noticed that they have a refrigerator, a microwave, an oven, a washer, a dryer, a dishwasher. You noticed those things at the property, and you decided that you also wanted them. So what the agent is going to do, or should do, is write that into the agreement itself. Now, at least what I do is I make sure that in the contract it says we have seen these on this date, and as per the agreement, they are supposed to stay. Now we move on to earnest money deposit, or a good faith deposit, also known as. A good faith deposit, or earnest money deposit, is a deposit basically letting the seller know, hey, I'm willing to put this much down and I'm willing to offer you guys this much money to keep the house and take it off the market and mark it as pending for me. So let's say I'm the buyer. I'm like, hey, I'm not quite sure what to offer, but let's say we're going to offer them $2,500. So what I'll do is I'll write a cashier's check, or I would wire the money to the people holding the cash. Now, the people holding the cash can be a variety of people. Some use an app called Earnest. Others wire the money to the brokerage, and others send the cashier's check to the brokerage, or if you guys decide, you can have a independent party hold the money, but it is typically a organization, not just a set person. Now, the earnest money deposit also comes out of your costs, your closing costs. It is seen as a little payment for your closing cost as well. So any money that you're putting down, such as the earnest money, that is going to be covered when it comes to closing. So you don't have to worry about extra money coming out for that process. We're also going to talk about inspections. Inspections are something that I suggest never, under any circumstances, waiving, especially with older homes, mainly because if an inspection comes back, and 90% of the time they will come back with something. Even new built homes, the inspector goes in and he finds something. It is most likely not going to be a major thing, but things will be seen and things are most likely going to be fixed, or the inspector will request that they be fixed, such as a GFCI outlet not being near a source of water. Now, with that period, the inspection is going to be coming out most of the times out of the buyer's pocket. So that is a expense that you guys are going to have to keep track of. Inspections typically cost between $300 to $600. It really depends on the inspector that you go with, but I recommend getting a certified inspector to go through that process. And you guys can actually also go to, like, once it's scheduled, let's say the inspector to be scheduled in the contract, because they will be in the contract. You scheduled the inspector to come between 3 and 5 days. So we'll say just 5 days. Let's say the inspector can come out and later that day or the following day. You can actually go to the inspection if you want, and the inspector will explain to you a lot of things that he's going to be looking for, things that he's testing. Basically, he's testing the entire house, but he's going to explain to you all of the process in detail. It typically takes a couple of hours if they're good. So just so you're aware, if you are willing to go to that, I highly, highly recommend I go to all of mine. Now, when it comes to after inspection, the contract, if the seller accepted the contract, means that during the inspection period, it is now not a closed contract, but it is an open contract, meaning that you can ask for certain types of things. Now, these certain types of things are, you can ask for seller concessions. Seller concessions are a relatively new phenomenon that has kind of not overly taken the industry, but it is a thing now. And it is a offering that the seller can give the buyer. So in this instance, let's say there was something that the buyer wanted to fix. As the seller, you can offer the buyer, a certain amount of money, so either money or a service, as a concession. So I've seen a few times where the seller will offer 3% of the home price in concessions. I've seen them offer $5,000 to $2,000, so some $1,000 in concessions. And what that means is that the seller is going to be giving the buyer, who is the money in this case, the buyer, the 2, 3, however many thousand, that money at closing. Now, working on closing is, let's say everything's gone well, you guys have agreed. As a buyer, the buyer needs to have a title company. Now, what a title company does is make sure that the title is clean from any encumbrances or liens on it. That means it is a clear, marketable title. You'll hear realtors say that when the seller is going to give you the title. So when the seller gives you the title, they're basically saying, hey, I'm giving this to you, and there are no issues with it. The title company makes sure that there are no issues with title. Now, when it comes to lenders, some lenders take quite a while to close. I've seen some take less than a week. I've seen some take a month. It really, really depends on your lender. And you can actually ask, as a buyer, you can ask your lender, hey, when can you guys close? I'll also be asking them, it's like, hey, how soon can we close? Depending on what my buyer wants. Now we talk about possession. Possession can happen at a wide range of times. Some sellers would like 30 days, 40 days, 60 days. That is 60 days is really, really pushing it. But we've seen sellers offer that much in terms of days. We've also seen them offer it on possession, on closing. So there are different ways that you guys can go about it. Typically, sometimes it is at closing, sometimes it is at 30 days. Sometimes the seller doesn't need it for 30 days, but we always make sure that once the seller is done, you guys get the keys to the house. Now, closing day. When you talk to the lender is going to giving you constant updates and talks, and they're going to need lots and lots of documents. But once all those documents are done, the lender will give those documents over to the title company, and closing will be at a title company. 90% of the time, it is at a title company. During this process, the lender should be telling you how much you need to bring at closing. The real estate agent should not be involved in talking about money exchanging hands like that. The realtor should not be asking you for any money whatsoever during this process. Now, at closing, you are going to have a final check for how much you need to bring, which the lender will tell you exactly how much to bring. Title company will ensure that that money is exactly what it says. So they'll line up the documents and be like, all right, this is how much is the check for. Okay, we're good. Once that process is done, and once your hands are aching from how many documents you have signed, if you're lucky enough, the seller has given you guys the keys at close, and congratulations, you are new homeowners. Now, if you have any questions, any further questions about what that process looks like, please, please, please let me know. I will happily discuss that with you. And if you have a real estate agent, I would recommend that if you have come to me for this information, that you ask them, hey, why haven't you told me about this information? I will also be at the very end. I have also put in the description below a little PDF for you guys, basically outlining all the real estate terms that you guys are going to be hearing. It's a glossary just to define it for you guys, because it is a lot. And I mean, a lot of information, and it is not easy for anyone to just be like, oh, I obviously know all of these. No one does. But just so you guys know, if the real estate agent is talking in certain types of terms, you know those terms, because you should know those terms. And your real estate agent should be having that conversation with you. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Without further ado, that's the end of the video.